The Peter Schiff Show.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Mint Mobile. Cut your wireless plan to just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/gold. Today's podcast is also sponsored by NetSuite, the easy-to-use cloud-based business management software for every aspect of your business. Take advantage of NetSuite's special financing offer at netsuite.com/gold. Okay, well, I just finished watching the Republican presidential debates on Fox, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the debates, the candidates. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about what happened today in the economy and the markets. You know, there was very little discussion about the economy, unfortunately, during the debates. There was a lot of nonsense that was really discussed. I don't know if debated is the proper word for it, but I'm going to talk about reality, and then I'll focus in on that show. So first of all, before the U.S. market opened, we did get some weak economic data coming out of Europe. All these PMIs numbers that came out weaker than expected. But then we got the release of the PMI for the US. The flat composite number for August came out this morning just after the market opened. So about 9:45 Eastern time, we got this release. And sure enough, in line with the rest of the world, the number was below estimates. The forecast, and I'm just going to break it down by sector, manufacturing versus service. So they were looking for the manufacturing index to come out at 48.8, and it came out at 47. That's weak. In fact, the range of estimates for that number ranged as high as 49.5, but as low as 47.5. And we actually came in under the low end of that range. So that's a weak number. And the service sector also weak, not quite as weak. It was supposed to be 52. It came out at 51. Now, anything above 50 is supposed to be expanding. So the service sector just barely, but solid contraction in manufacturing at 47, which I believe is the more important of the two sectors. Even though the service sector is larger, I think manufacturing is more important. And I've been talking about the fact that we've been in a manufacturing recession for a long time. And that's where Joe Biden and Donald Trump have something in common, because both presidents lied about the true state of manufacturing. President Trump claimed that he revitalized manufacturing and made America great again by restoring our manufacturing prowess. And now Joe Biden is telling the same lie, that we're having this renaissance in manufacturing, that it's booming. And both presidents were being dishonest. Manufacturing was deteriorating under both of their presidencies, and it continues as we become more and more reliant on imports. It's the foreign factories that are producing the stuff that we consume, not the American factories. Unfortunately, nobody really talked about this in today's debate, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. I want to stay focused on this. So as soon as that weaker than expected data came out, the bond market rallied. Now, why did the bond market rally? Well, the economy is weak. Well, we already know that. But this weak economic data comes out, and traders buy bonds because that's what they've been programmed to do. It's like Pavlov and the dog, right? They salivate at these numbers, and they react. The idea is, oh, the economy is weaker. Oh, the Fed doesn't have to hike as much. The Fed might have to cut. Well, how many times are you going to react to the same data set? But we got it, and bonds were on the lows. I mean, they had been beaten up pretty bad. So I'm sure some of the longs, or the shorts rather, in the bond market decided to take some profits, and that's probably what kind of drove the movement. But the theory is wrong, and I've been discussing that on this podcast A weak economy is not good for bonds. The idea is that it just means that the Fed is going to be easier, but that just means that inflation is going to be stronger. The real enemy of bonds is inflation, especially US Treasuries, where it's not really default that is your risk, but devaluation, depreciation, inflation is what drives down the value of the dollar, and that drives down the value of bonds. Again, too much money chasing too few goods, that's what causes prices to go up. Well, if manufacturing is going down, what does that tell you about the supply of goods? Well, it's going down too, or not going up as much as we need it. So you're shrinking the goods that are available to be bought. That means goods prices should go up. At the same time, if the economy really is weakening, the government is ultimately going to run bigger deficits. The Fed's going to have to monetize those deficits. I mean, they're not going to have to, but they will, because if they don't, well, everything's going to collapse. And so we already know that given the choice between allowing a financial crisis or any kind of crisis to happen or printing money, that's what they're going to do. They're going to print money. They're going to create inflation because they think that's the lesser of the two evils, and they have the ability to use that as their kind of get out of jail free card. Except it's not free; it's actually very expensive. But that's what these politicians do, and so a weakening economy leads to bigger deficits. It leads to ultimately a weaker dollar, and more money printing, and you have more people who are unemployed and not being productive, but taking their unemployment checks or their savings and trying to buy goods and services that they don't help create or produce. And you have more money chasing fewer goods. And so this is inflationary. But in the short run, the markets don't get that. So you got the rally in the bond market, and that kind of was like a domino. Gold rallied about $20. Again, why? Oh, weak economy means the Fed can cut rates. They think that's bullish for gold. Gold went up. What's bullish for gold is the inflation. That's why this number was bullish for gold, because it means more inflation, not less. It should have been bearish for bonds too, but the bond traders don't get that. But gold was up about $20. In fact, it's up another $5 or so this evening as I'm doing this podcast. We're now at about 1920. So we were below 1900 this morning. And so now we're back above that level. Again, I've been saying on this podcast, that's the support. Anything below 1900 is a pretty strong buy. So far, anything near 2000 has been a pretty good sell. But I think eventually it's the resistance at 2000 that's going to give way, not the support at 1900. In fact, I think the support is getting stronger as the resistance overhead is getting weaker. So the gold market went up. Dollar, didn't really make much of a move today. A little bit surprised by that. The stock market was up, not a huge move. We'll see what happens tomorrow. The Nasdaq again was up all day. Nvidia, right, which is the leading the rally, or the poster child for the bubble of AI. Nvidia was up about 3% today, ahead of their earnings, which were released after the close. And I haven't actually looked through those earnings. I know it was a big beat, and the stock jumped another 7% or so after hours. So up 10, 11% on the day. Stock above 500, I think, when they stopped the overnight trading, if they even stopped it. But the last I looked at it, it had traded about $502 a share. Never been above 500 before. This is a new all-time record high in the stock. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow if it can sustain those gains. There have been a lot of days now over the last week or so where tech stocks have rallied but not been able to hold on to those gains, and they've sold off or closed lower. So to me, that is a negative sign. It's a sign of some topping. So I think it'll be key to see what happens to the market tomorrow, because if the market sells off in the face of this beat, particularly if you get a negative, day on Nvidia, right? If it actually closes in the red after making a new all-time record high, that could provide strong evidence that this, 3-week correction that has started, the market peaked about 4 weeks ago, but that this correction could get a lot more substantial and may in fact become officially a bear market. We're still a ways from that, but that could obviously happen. Meanwhile, gold stocks very strong today with a strong price of gold, but again, still trading in the range. I think the GDXJ were up about 3%. Bitcoin, everything kind of went up today with bonds going down and the idea that maybe the Fed isn't going to be as aggressive. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break right now. And when I come back, I'm going to start talking about tonight's debates. So stick around. I'll be right back.
Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks fun at first. They probably threw in a free phone too, but now you're stuck and you can't get out. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are as low as $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data, all for just $15 a month. In these inflationary times, the price of just about everything is going up, and there's nothing you can do about it. But fortunately, there's something you can do about your wireless bill. You can actually bring it down by switching to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, keep your current phone number along with all your existing contacts. So ditch big wireless with Mint Mobile's limited time deal and get premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/gold. That's mintmobile.com/gold. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/gold.
All right, now on to the debates. But before I talk about what happened during the debates, I want to talk about the candidate who was not in the debates, because on my last podcast, I made an appeal to my audience to donate $1 to Larry Elder, a longtime friend of the Peter Schiff Show. Used to be, I think, my most popular guest host, and he is a great talk show host in Southern California that I was a fan of many, many years ago. And I had requested my audience to help this guy get onto the debate stage because he was short about 1,000 donations, because in order to get into this Fox debate, you needed 40,000 individual donors. They just had to, pay a buck, and that's all it took. And in fact, some of these candidates were paying people as much as $10 to donate $1. I mean, I don't even know how that's fair. That seems like you're cheating if you're bribing people, because if you have to give them $10 to get $1, you're actually negative $9. How does that even count as a donation? It's like you're minus $9 for every theoretical donation. It's actually a subtraction. So, I mean, obviously, those candidates that had to do that, they were cheating. I mean, technically, I guess it didn't say that you couldn't pay $10 or $100 to get that money, which obviously it doesn't even count as a donation, because the donation is supposed to show that somebody supports your campaign and they're willing to give you a buck. If they're taking $9 out of your campaign, they're not supporting you, right? You're supporting them. So, but be that as it may, Larry Elder didn't do that. He got almost to 40,000 all by himself. And then with a little help from me and my audience, we pushed him over the top. So thanks to everybody who took the time out to give Larry Elder $1. It's unfortunate that the crooks that run the Republican Party, which is why I'm very critical of both parties, because the Republicans maybe are just slightly less bad than the Democrats, right? They're all part of the same club there, the Demopublicans, the Republicrats. But they decided that they didn't want Larry Elder up on that debate stage. Now, why? I mean, why are they so afraid of having him up there, right? Because they rigged the criteria. So the criteria was you got to get 40,000 donors. He had that. Thanks to us, we put him over the top. Without this show, I'm confident that he wouldn't have made it, right? Not that he didn't deserve it, but he was running out of time, and it's not easy to get people to give you money honestly, right? Which is what Larry did. But you also had to have, like something like 200 donors in 20 states. I forget. You had to it had to be spread out. That was a secondary criteria, and he did that. He exceeded that. Then you needed to be at least 1% in 3 national polls, independent polls. So you couldn't commission your own poll, right? And then show that you're 1% in your own poll because you may rig the polls. So the polls had to be independent. And so he submits it. He made it. He was at least 1% in 3 polls. So he submits his package on time. Everything looks great. And then the Republicans come back and they say, sorry, you didn't make it. Why not? They say, well, one of your polls, the Rasmussen poll, isn't independent, so it doesn't count. Well, what do you mean it's not independent? It's one of the biggest polling companies in the country, Rasmussen. Everybody uses Rasmussen polls. How could you disqualify Rasmussen? And according to the Republicans, they said, well, it's affiliated with the Trump campaign, and so it's not independent. Well, Larry Elder said, wait a minute, I'm not affiliated with the Trump campaign, so it's independent from me. I mean, even if the Trump campaign was behind the poll, what does that have to do with me? It's independent of me. But Rasmussen later came out and said, what are you talking about? Trump had nothing to do with this poll. This is our own poll. It was not coordinated with any campaign. It's totally independent. And so it should count for Larry Elder. No, they don't count it. So you know what Larry Elder did? He said, well, if you're not going to take this poll, I actually made it. I'm actually qualified because there's another national poll that's independent that I'm 1% in. I just didn't bother submitting that one because I only needed 3 and I didn't need overkill with 4. So since you rejected one of the polls, I'm going to give you this other poll. And the Republican, Fox News and the Republicans, oh, it's too late. You missed the deadline. You can't bring in that poll. Well, he didn't know he needed it because who would think that a Rasmussen poll wouldn't qualify as a national poll when that's one of the biggest national polls there is? And it turns out it was completely independent. The idea that it was some kind of a Trump campaign poll was BS. And even if Trump was behind it, it was independent of Larry Elder. He had nothing to do with that poll, but the poll showed that he had support. So what they should have done with this criteria is, they said, you know what, you're close enough, you're right there. Yeah, we're not going to disqualify that, or because you didn't know that it wasn't independent, we'll allow you to turn in this other poll because you basically met the criteria. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that if you're up on that debate stage, that you actually have some shot of winning, even if it's a long shot. So you have to demonstrate that you've got some national support. You got to show that you're in the polls. Otherwise, anybody can say, oh, I'm running for president, put me up in the debate. I mean, you can't have thousands of people if they just want to claim they're running for president. So you have to have some kind of criteria, but then you have to stand to it. And they clearly didn't do that with Larry Elder because they did everything they could to keep him out of that debate to the point where he filed a lawsuit. He tried to get a restraining order to stop the debate because he needed to be up there. Now, why they went to such lengths to keep him off that stage. I mean, would it have been so terrible if there was a 9th person up on that debate stage? I mean, I don't see how the Republicans are better served because he wasn't there. I was certainly disappointed that he wasn't there. I would have liked to have heard some of the things that Larry Elder might have said. And I didn't get that opportunity, and neither did a lot of other people. The question is why? What is it about Larry Elder that the Republican establishment dislikes so much that they basically cheated in order to deny him? Because they obviously had to think this up. I mean, what do you mean Rasmussen is an independent? Of course it was. So they were looking for a reason to keep him off that stage. So they made one up. They pretended that he didn't qualify even though he did. Now, at least Larry Elder is not going to claim that it was because he's black, right? Even though he is black, because he doesn't do that BS, right? He knows that it's not a racial thing. It's about his ideas. It's about the fact that he represents a threat. Now, there are a few other candidates up there potentially, or maybe one other that represents a threat to the establishment, but they couldn't keep that guy off the debate stage because he just, clearly met the criteria. It wasn't like they could come up with any kind of BS reason to keep him off. And I'm talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. I keep mispronouncing his name, Vivek Ramaswamy. But he obviously stood out on that debate stage. And I'll start talking about the debates now. As the anti-establishment candidate, all the other candidates, with the exception, I think, and I didn't know much about this one candidate. And in fact, I can't even remember his name. He's a governor of North Dakota. I got it. Let me see who he was. I just started following the guy on Twitter or X, but I'm talking about Doug Burgum. Doug Burgum. And what made, or what piqued my interest in Doug Burgum was his answer on the abortion question, because he had some restrictions on abortions in his state that he signed as governor, but he was asked if he would sign something like that as president, and he said absolutely not, because he said the Constitution doesn't delegate that authority to the U.S. government, and he talked about the 10th Amendment and the fact that the federal government only has the powers that are delegated to it by the Constitution, and everything else is retained by the states and by the people. So there's nothing in the Constitution that allows the government to regulate abortion, and so it's not a federal issue. It's a state issue. That's always been my position. That was my position when I ran for the United States Senate, that abortion was none of the federal government's business. It had nothing to do with it, that it was something that each individual state needed to determine on its own. And so I really liked that answer. And that made me look into his background a little bit. And, he really has not been in politics at all. He became governor late in life after a very successful private sector career, building up a hell of a tech company, creating a lot of jobs. And so that's actually the kind of person that we need, right? Somebody that doesn't have experience. A lot of people wanted to beat up on Vivek Ramaswamy, especially Chris Christie. Maybe he was there that was supposed to take this guy down, because going into the debate, Ramaswamy was actually number 2 in the polling, right? Although everybody is far away from Trump. And in fact, if you ask me to pick who do I think was the biggest winner tonight, I'd say Trump. I'd say Trump actually won, because I don't think he lost any support tonight. And in fact, I'm looking at Predicted right now. I pulled up the betting site where you can place live bets on who's going to get the nomination. And Trump's up about 2 cents on the day. So he's 59 cents. He was 57 cents yesterday. So he's actually got a better shot of winning, according to the betting market. Vivek Ramaswamy actually dropped. He was at 20 cents going into tonight, and now he's dropped to 17. That's down 3 cents, but he's still number 2. He's ahead of Ron DeSantis, who I think he was probably the big loser, because he needed to do something tonight. If he wanted to get back on top to be regarded as the main challenger to Trump, he missed the opportunity. I don't think he stood out at all. I mean, he didn't make a major mistake, but he needed to do something, because he's lost a lot of momentum in this campaign, and I can see it slipping away from him. And he was supposed to be the major alternative to Donald Trump, right? He was the guy that could beat Biden because he didn't have all the negatives of Trump. Well, he's not going to get an opportunity to beat Biden, because he's not even coming close to beating Trump. Anyway, I got another commercial break, so stick around. I got a lot more to talk about regarding today's Republican debate.
Your business was humming, but now you're falling behind. Your teams are buried in manual work, taking forever to close the books. Getting one source of truth is like pulling teeth. If this is you, you should know these three numbers: 36,000, 25, and 1. I've been running small businesses almost my entire career, and I know from personal experience how difficult that can be. Fortunately, there's NetSuite from Oracle to help you better manage the situation. Remember those three numbers? 36,000, 25, and 1? Well, 36,000, that's the number of businesses which have already upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25? That's because NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less. Close their books in days, not weeks, and drive costs down. And 1, because your business is one of a kind. So you get a customized solution for all of your KPIs, key performance indicators, in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, and it's all in one place. Right now, you can download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you constantly excellent performance absolutely free at netsuite.com/gold. That's netsuite.com/gold to get your own KPI checklist for free. netsuite.com/gold.
All right. I am talking about tonight's Republican debate on Fox. Obviously, this is the first of many debates. And, I mean, I don't know. Debates is not really the best word to describe what you look at. I mean, it's not like Lincoln Douglas up there. Everybody's kind of got their talking points and they're trying to get it out there. I mean, I have a little bit of experience with a debate. I did debate when I ran for U.S. Senate. In fact, I think my debate is on the internet. In fact, I'm going to check right here. I forget I think it's on YouTube. Peter Schiff, Senate debate. Let me see. Debate, Connecticut. Let me see if it's up there. Yeah, there it is. Well, it's in 5 parts now because I think I posted that. Yeah, it's on my own website. And we should put them all together. Maybe I'll do that because back when we initially posted this debate, I don't think you couldn't put a long video on YouTube. A lot has changed, so I had to put it up in 5 different parts. I think I'm going to try to put it together and then release it, so you can see how I did. That was my first debate, really. And it was the last time Linda McMahon debated me. I mean, this is the truth. When I ran for Senate, we had one debate, and all the papers that covered it said that I won. And that was the last time Linda McMahon would debate me. Now, she went on to win the nomination of the Republican Party and then lose to Blumenthal in the general election. But after experiencing that debate, that was it. I had couple of debates later on with Rob Simmons because, we were trailing. She was #1, and so she wouldn't debate. She probably would have debated Rob Simmons by himself, but as long as I was there, she wasn't going to debate anybody. And so she couldn't just debate Rob Simmons. So she debated me. In fact, she was so afraid of me when we did our run. Normally, when you have the convention in the state of Connecticut, at the convention, the candidates make a speech to the attendees, all the delegates, to try to get their support. That's normally how a convention goes, except for the 2010 convention with me. Linda McMahon used her influence to change the rules so that no candidate could actually speak to the delegates. Imagine that. You're here to nominate the candidates, and Linda's like, hey, Peter Schiff's a good speaker. How do I keep him off the stage? Well, let's make it so nobody can speak. Well, then what are you going to do? Well, she said, well, you got to have a 5-minute video. That's all you can do. You can put up a 5-minute video. Now, if you go to my YouTube channel now, the video that plays, the introduction, that was part of my 5-minute video. That's where I got it. I pulled it from my 5-minute video that we were supposed to play in front of the delegates. But here's what happens. So Linda McMahon is up there and they play her video. Rob Simmons, they play his video. Then when they come to my video, oh, the projector broke down. Oh my God, how could that be? And so I didn't even get a video. So not only did I not get to address the delegates, they didn't even get to see my video. And so then they vote. And I probably would have got enough votes to get on the ballot, but Linda McMahon had all of her, minions running around scaring all the Republicans about how I wanted to legalize heroin. That wasn't even part of my campaign. Yeah, I'm against the war on drugs, but I never actually spoke about any of that in my stump speeches. That was not like my big issue, right? I wasn't, trying to go there. You have to pick your battles, right? And the battles I picked were not legalizing heroin. But yeah, obviously in my history, I had said something about, yeah, drugs, should be decriminalized. And so I ended up not quite getting enough delegates. I almost made it, but I didn't quite get the delegates I needed. And then I kind of, released them. As people started voting for, I think Rob or somebody else. So I ended up not getting enough votes at the convention. So then I had a petition to get on the ballot, and I became the first person in the history of the state of Connecticut to petition his way onto a ballot. I had to collect all these signatures. It cost me like 150 grand out of my pocket, right, to get all these signatures so that I can be on the ballot, right, only to lose. But then the media, just like they did now, they conspired against me because they never really, again, they never polled it accurately. Going into the debates, I was at 3% and I got more than 20%. So the obviously, how can the polls be that wrong? How can they say you're at 3% and you get 20%? And I actually would have got more than 20% had people not thought I was at 3%, because so many people thought that a vote for me was a wasted vote. How can this guy possibly win? He's down at 3%. So I'm going to vote for Linda because I don't like Simmons, or I'm going to vote for Simmons because I don't like Linda. The only one I like is Peter Schiff, but he can't win, right? So the Republican establishment just kind of like conspired against me, and so did the media. Local media didn't cover me, and so they're doing kind of the same thing with Elder, other people. But the reason I brought it up is, like, I do have some experience in a political debate. That was the only one I did. I mean, so I was a novice at it. But I think I did a pretty good job. So, if you want to see how I did, you can go and check out this debate on YouTube. You can either watch it in 8 parts, or you can wait for me to re-upload it, and I'll do it all in one video. But anyway, so getting back to tonight's debate, so it seemed like there were 2 people that everybody wanted to attack. One of them wasn't there, Donald Trump, right? So there were a lot of people that were beating up on Trump. And, I don't think that, that helped anybody out, right? Because, Trump, he's got a lot of supporters. And if you're hoping to convince some of Trump's supporters to vote for you, which is what all these guys need, the only chance these guys have is not to take votes away from each other. They got to take them away from Trump. And Trump's supporters are pretty damn loyal. But you're not going to get them by attacking their guy. And so if you become an enemy of Trump, you're not getting any of his supporters. And so you don't have a chance, because fighting for everybody else's voters is going to get you nowhere, because nobody else has enough votes. In fact, I didn't even mention this, and I haven't had a chance to see it. But, Donald Trump, as I said last time, skipped the debate, which was a smart move for him to have done. I don't know if I'd have done the same thing, because I like debating. So I might have ignored the advice of my campaign staff and gotten there anyway. But Trump is probably, smarter than that, I guess. And he took advice from people who told him, you got nothing to win. When you're so far ahead, right? Why give anybody a chance to catch you, right? Let all your competitors fight amongst themselves, stay above the fray, which is what he did. He stayed above the fray, and I think he won by doing that. But he did something even smarter. He went on Tucker Carlson on Twitter. I'm sure way more people watched the debate. In fact, if you go to Twitter, let me look. I think I pulled that up. I don't know how many millions of people have watched that debate on Twitter. Let me see. Go to Tucker Carlson. But I bet it's a ridiculous amount of people. Yeah, 88.7 million people. There's no way that debate got even a fraction of the number of people that watched that, and it happened at the same time. So, I mean, that was a coup for Trump, but I'm sure it was as big a coup, if not more, for Tucker Carlson because he was able to steal the ratings from the network that canned him, Fox. So this was a double victory for those guys. And I haven't watched the Tucker interview. I'm gonna watch it, and I'll probably comment on it on the next podcast. So, taking shots at Trump didn't work, and of course, the guy that took the most shots was Chris Christie, and he isn't going to win anything. I mean, Chris Christie is a long shot. In fact, looking at the poll on Predicted, he was at 7 cents yesterday. He's down to 4 cents. So by spending his time attacking Trump and then attacking Ramaswamy, right? I'm gonna get to that. He ended up just losing support. It didn't work out for him, you know. So, but maybe by him being the attacker, he's just sacrificing himself because he thinks maybe it'll benefit somebody else. Maybe he's the attack dog and he's trying to help Ron DeSantis, right, to gain in the polls by doing his dirty work or something. But it certainly isn't working for him. But the other person that was being attacked was Vivek Ramaswamy. And he was attacked not only by Chris Christie, but by some of the other candidates. It even seemed like the panel, the moderators were kind of against him. But he's clearly the biggest outsider in this race, and one of the things that they're trying to say about him as well, you don't have any experience. What kind of experience do you have? I mean, you've never been in elected office. As far as I'm concerned, that's a plus because all these career politicians, yeah, they got plenty of experience, the exact kind of experience we don't want, right? They have experience running up the debt, spending money, right? That's their experience. I mean, look, you look at Mike Pence, what did he do as vice president? Look at the explosion of debt. Yeah, and he was in the Senate. I mean, he was signing on to all these, big spending programs. They didn't balance any budgets. They didn't cut any spending. None of these career politicians did anything because the country is a disaster. I mean, they wanted to criticize the Biden economy, and obviously they're Republicans and Biden's a Democrat, but the economy didn't just get bad under Biden. It wasn't great under Trump either, as much as they want to pretend that it was. We've been in a decline for a long time, and both parties have blood on their hands as far as who's, been bludgeoning it to death. But Vivek Ramaswamy, he doesn't have any experience in Washington, and that's precisely why sending him to Washington makes more sense than sending these guys back to repeat the mistakes that they've already made. Yeah, everybody promises, oh, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It never happens. It doesn't change. These guys are politicians. They just say whatever they're going to say to get elected. It's all a bunch of BS. And Ramaswamy, again, his heart's in the right place. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. There's a lot of things that he says that I agree with. And in some cases, he's right about stuff, but not precisely for the right reasons. But he's on the right track. He understands, like Ronald Reagan, that the government is the problem, not the solution. The solution to the problem is getting rid of government, right? Limiting the size of government. He wants to do that. He wants to make government a lot smaller. He wants to cut spending. He wants to eliminate agencies and departments, and that's good. That's a positive thing. So people are criticizing this guy because he doesn't have enough experience. that's the best thing about him. He doesn't have experience wrecking the country, right? He doesn't have experience lying. He's an honest guy from the private sector. Now he's pretty young, but he's achieved a lot in his young life. Now, initially, I thought they were all career politicians because the guy from North Dakota was a governor, but he just became governor later in life. Now that guy, I think, is on paper probably the best candidate on the field, right? Of all those people, the one to me that looks the most electable, and I gotta re, remember this guy's name because I keep I mean he's so new, right? I gotta is Doug Bergman. I think he's the most electable. I think he looks very presidential. I like his story. I mean, the only thing he's got that isn't, like perfect is his height. I mean, although not many of these guys have any stature as far as that's concerned. He's only 5'8", and generally it's tough to get elected. I mean, it's a very superstitial thing, but, being taller is an advantage to getting elected president, just historically, especially modern, ever since television. If you look at the heights of the presidents, they're 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2". Trump was 6'3". I mean, maybe once in a while, Barack Obama, I think, was 5'11 and a half. So it was almost, but I mean, they're all around 6 feet, maybe slight 5'11, 6'1, 6'2". So when you get down to 5'8", Ramaswamy's 5'7". I mean, that's a minor point. But other than that, I mean, if this guy was 6'1", 6'2", I'd say he'd be perfect as far as, a guy who looks like a president. He's a nice looking guy, just enough age to have experience and to instill confidence. He's got a great success story, middle America. He's got a little experience as governor, right? Governors make good presidential candidates. He still can run as an outsider because he's outside the Beltway. He's outside Washington. So he can still say, I want to shake things up, but he hasn't spent his life in politics. He spent his life in the private sector building up a successful business. So I think he would, crush Biden in an election. I mean, absolutely crush him. I think people would look at him and vote for him if he got the nomination. Now, if the Republicans see that this guy, to me, now I don't know about skeletons that might be in his closet, but to me, he looks like a very electable guy. I think he's going to appeal to the moderates who are going to have confidence in this guy, given his upbringing and what he's accomplished, and that he can run as an outsider. And almost like, hey, both parties have screwed up, and he has a good record to run on in North Dakota of cutting government spending and lowering taxes at the same time, balancing the budget, and so he to me could be like a Ronald Reagan type guy who ran a state and comes in to win. So that he would be the candidate. He's still very low. In fact, I don't think he's even gone up much on the predicted. Yeah, Doug Bergman. Yeah, he's at 1 cent. He's a 99-1 long shot, and he didn't even go to 2 cents. I mean, he's still like underneath the radar. I would have thought that a few people might have seen that guy, and that he would get a little bit more popular. Now, maybe he will. Maybe this, the betting is not, immediate. I think it will give him a little boost. I didn't even know who he was, right, until I saw him in the debate. But that's why it would have been good for Larry Elder to be up there, because he might have said something that clicked with somebody who didn't know about him, and they would have gone and looked him up, and he just was denied that opportunity. But I think he's the best candidate. Now, as far as somebody who could, also be a spoiler, not a spoiler, or just throw a monkey wrench into the whole situation, and it kind of as an unknown, is Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, in a way, he's almost like a Ross Perot, right? Because he's a bit quirky, And he's embracing that. I mean, first of all, I mean, he's not quirky because he's just Indian, but he's like a tech geek, right? He's a skinny guy. He talks about, he's short too, so he's not your typical president. In fact, we've never had an Indian president. Now, he was born here, so he was born in America, but his parents were all born in India, and so he's really the son of immigrants. Which I don't even know if we've had a president who was first generation in this country. I mean, I could be wrong. I forget where what about Obama. I forget about what his back. There's a lot of controversy into that, and I forget where. But normally you're not going to have that, and it's certainly Indian. Now, there's a lot of Indians in the United States. I mean, I'm not sure number wise, but there's a lot of them, and they're very successful. So he can obviously, drum up a lot of support in that community and raise a lot of money. And he's got a lot of money. So money is not going to be a problem for this guy. I think his net worth is around $1 billion, which is a pretty good net worth for a guy, 38 years old. I mean, it's a pretty good net worth for any guy, even if they're 98 years old. But he made a lot of money at a very young age, and he's willing to spend some of that money on this campaign. So he's going to be a factor as long as he wants to be around. And I think, there's enough truth in what he's saying, which is a lot of truth. And the economy is a mess. And for the same reason that people took a chance on Trump in 2016, they'd be willing to take a chance on him. The biggest problem is we already have a successful billionaire who you could vote for, Donald Trump. So he's appealing to the Trump voters. It's hard to get the Trump voters because Trump's got them. So as long as Trump's in the race, there's not a lot of oxygen, I think, for Vivek to really go much higher. And I think Trump probably likes the fact that he's there because it just reinforces the fact that you need a businessman, you need an outsider. Now, he's been in office, but he was only there that one time, and he has a very good story, especially how the corruption has affected him after he left. And at least Vivek Ramaswamy is standing up for Trump, and he is criticizing strongly the illegal vendetta against Trump by the Biden administration, by the Justice Department, and by a lot of these other states that are indicted him 4 times now. And so he's helping Trump because he's there in the debates as a Trump advocate. I mean, maybe he's trying to negotiate for a VP spot, 2 businessmen running. That would probably be a good ticket, I guess. I mean, it's not that balanced, but it's more of an outsider thing. But I think that he's going to pick up some support from DeSantis or some of these other guys, because let's say you like the idea of a Trump, but you just don't like Trump. I mean, you like a businessman, but just not Trump. For whatever reason, Trump has done something to upset you, or you just don't think Trump can win because he's so despised among the independents or the Democrats, but you want a guy like Trump, well, then you can vote for Vivek. You don't have to settle for DeSantis or Tim Scott or Chris Christie or Mike Pence. You've got Trump light. You've got somebody who's like Trump, but isn't Trump in Ramaswamy. So I think as long as he's in the race, I think it's going to be almost impossible for any of the other candidates to get enough support to be a threat to Trump. And so all of this is basically, almost like The Apprentice. Donald Trump is going to look at the 2024 field of candidates like he's running The Apprentice. And these are all the people who are trying to interview for the VP slot. And he's just watching to see if he wants to pick his VP from these guys or if he wants to pick somebody else. Now, we know he's not going to take Pence again, right? I mean, so it's not going to be a repeat of Trump Pence. So Pence is out. So he's not going anywhere. But yeah, I think he's going to sit back and enjoy the show and just keep on collecting donations. And obviously he's got to deal with his legal issues. And of course, if he wins, well, that's just going to really help him. And I mean, it may even help him if he loses. Either way, all this is going to help him get the nomination. How it helps them in the general election, I think the Democrats believe that their best chance of winning is to have Trump as their opponent. They may believe that's their only chance of winning. And so that may be their reverse psychology. They're charging him with these crimes, not because they're trying to stop him from running, but because they want him to run. See, Trump wants to say, hey, they're just trying to attack me because I'm their leading opponent. They only want to wound him enough to lose in the general election. They don't want to kill him to the point where he loses the nomination. They want him to get the nomination. They just don't want him to win the White House again. And so they're thinking that they're going to damage him just enough so that Biden can beat him, but not enough so that any of these other Republicans can beat him. And I still think that might backfire, that Trump can win. But again, I think the candidate that's most likely to win. I mean, Vivek is an interesting guy, but there may be some guys that don't want to take a chance on him. Well, you don't have any government experience, or you're too young, or But I think that Doug Bergman, unless he's got some weird skeleton, that like a Gary Hart, like some crazy affair is going to come out, or some scandal that they can dig up some dirt on this guy. I mean, he looks pretty clean to me. I mean, this is who the Republicans should get behind if they don't want Donald Trump, but they want to win. But it's not just about winning. It's about making a difference. If you just want to have another Republican in office to preside over the demise of the country, there's a lot of Republicans you could choose from. I want somebody who's going to be a game changer. I mean, I had hoped that Trump might be that person. I knew that, he might not. I wasn't so surprised when he turned out to be more like a traditional politician than how he campaigned. But at least there was a shot. But no, the deficits got bigger. Government got bigger. We went deeper into debt. And America was further from greatness when he left office than when he came in. Now, it would have been worse if Hillary Clinton would have won. I'm not saying that, he did a worse job than she would have done. No, she would have done it way worse. And there were things that he did well that Hillary Clinton never would have done, right? But we need a game changer. We're in a lot of trouble here. The country is in much worse shape than any of these candidates led on. I think the one candidate that kind of spoke to that the most was Vivek. He talked about, hey, it's not morning in America. We're at a crossroads. Things are pretty bad. They are, and I think average Americans know that they're bad. They don't believe the BS. They didn't believe the BS coming from the Obama administration. That's what hurt Hillary. That's one of the reasons that Trump won, because Trump told the truth about how bad things were. It's just that once he got elected, he stopped telling the truth because he pretended things were great. But as a candidate, he connected with everybody who was being fed a bunch of BS from the government. Well, same thing is happening again with the Biden administration trying to sell people on this Bidenomics, whatever the hell that is. I mean, what's Bidenomics? Spending a bunch of other people's money, running up the debt, destroying the economy. That's Bidenomics. Why are you proud of that? It's not like he's, some genius to come up with this, Bidenomics. But we need somebody that can turn this around in a substantive way to actually substantially cut government spending, eliminating agencies and departments. And he's at least talking about that. And so he could connect with people in that way. And so could he win if Trump wasn't the nominee and it was Vivek Ramaswamy? Yeah, I think he could win. He is a little bit riskier candidate. And so it's possible that more people wouldn't want to take a chance on him. Now, some people are very desperate and they'd be willing to do it. but I think he could win too. And, I would be hopeful that if we got a guy like that in the White House, that once he got there, he might be more concerned about doing what's right than about securing a second term, right? Because Trump, people thought, oh, he's going to do great in his second term. You may not get a second term. You got a shot. You're in the White House. His best shot was the first 2 years when he had the Republican Congress, and he squandered that. So would this guy make the same mistake if he had a Republican Congress? Would he squander that opportunity, or would he really be a game changer? Would he really do a lot of the things he's talking about doing on the campaign trail? As an American, I would be very hopeful that that would be the case. But anyway, that's kind of my take on this debate. Again, I wish Larry Elder was there. Not that I think it would have made a difference. He's not going to eat into Trump's support. But I think it would have been good to get him out there. I think more people need to know about Larry Elder. I agree with him on so many things. He's a great educator. And so it would have been nice to have had him up on the debate stage. Hopefully he'll make the next debate. Eventually the field is going to, whittle down a bit. I mean, I don't think anybody really just completely blew themselves up, any kind of major gaffes. I mean, the questions, I think Fox did a bad job on the questions. I mean, asking them about space aliens or other kind of things. I mean, too much of attention on Trump and all that nonsense. Why talk about the guy that's not even there? Talk about substantive issues, but they don't even know the right questions to ask, because these guys don't even really understand the problems, and that's part of the problem. But we'll see how they do in future debates. I think Biden probably thought this was great because nobody took any meaningful hits at Trump. So if Biden is hoping for a rematch against the guy he already beat, I think tonight's debate just makes it even more likely that we're going to have a repeat of the prior election, hopefully with a different outcome, right? I've got my criticism of Trump, but I'd much rather see him do the Grover Cleveland and be the first president since Grover Cleveland to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Grover Cleveland, one of the best presidents we've ever had, one of my favorites. So Donald Trump has a lot to live up to if he's going to try to follow in those footsteps. So maybe some of the ghost of Cleveland would rub off on Trump in his second term. And anyway, that's it for tonight. I'll be back probably later in the week, maybe the weekend, for another podcast. So until then, take care.